Hey YouTube, Max66Dreams here. So today I'm going to be teaching you an advanced method of how to solve the 2x2, the Ortega method. So there are 3 steps to the Ortega method. The first step is you get one side the same color. The next step is you put that side that you solve on the bottom, and then you get all of the opposite color all oriented correctly. And then the third step is to solve the entire cube with one algorithm. So let's go ahead and start with step 1. So in step 1, you want to get one side the same color. So right here, I can see there's a green bar. So now I need to find the other 2 green pieces. And this is pretty intuitive. There isn't really much other explanation than you have to get one side the same color. And note that you don't have to make sure that as you solve and place these pieces that you have to solve the side of 2. It's fine, you don't need to do that. You'll do that later in the tutorial. So that was step 1. Now that you've got one side the same color, let's move on to step 2. So in step 2, you're going to orient the opposite side. So in this case, green is opposite of blue. So there are 8 cases that you could run into. No, sorry, correction. There are 7 cases that you could run into to orient these top pieces. So let's go ahead and look at the first one. So the first case is where you have one of the colors you're looking for facing up on the top side, and you have one of them facing you, and then one right here, and finally the one in the back. So, but in order to see this case when you're just doing 2-look, PLOLL, you're just going to want to look for one that's on top and one that's facing you. And for the second look, you want to look at this one right here. And the algorithm is R, U, RI, U, R, 2U, R prime. And that solves it. And that solves the top side. The second case is where you have one of the solved corners again on the top, but instead of having the one facing you right here, this time you have a blue one facing right there. So it's almost like the inverse of it. So now you have one right here. So you're going to, when you do this algorithm, you want to make sure that the solved corner is in the top, right here on the top. And the blue right here is facing out. So that one in the back. And the algorithm is R, U, 2U, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime. And that fixes it. The third case is where you have a bar on the top, and then you have headlights on the side. And you want to make sure that the headlights are pointing to the left, like this, and then you have the bar on the right. And the algorithm is F, R, U, RI, UI, FI. And that fixes it. The fourth case is where you have a bar again, but instead of the headlights coming out, like the last one, the headlights are coming out of the side. And when you do this algorithm, you want to make sure that the bar is on the right side, and the algorithm is R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R, F prime. And that fixes it. The fifth case is where you have 2 solved corners, and you have a headlight right here and a headlight right here. So what you want to look for is you want to look for 2 corners that are solved on the top. And you want to make sure that when you hold this, you have one in the top left-hand corner and one in the bottom right-hand corner, and that one of the same colors is facing you. And the algorithm is F, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime. And that fixes it. The sixth case is where you have two headlights coming out on this side, and on the opposite side you have two other headlights. So there'll be no solved corners on the top layer. And this algorithm is very easy. You have one of the pairs facing you and you do this algorithm. R2, U2, R prime, U2, R2. And that solves it. The final OLL case is where you have two headlights and then you have a headlight coming out on the side and on the other side. So it almost kind of looks like I guess you could say a man with legs and two arms. Right there and there. And then there's the 2 feet. So you want to make sure that this bar is facing you and you do this algorithm. R prime, F, R2, U prime, R2, F, R. And that fixes it. So now we're going to move on to step 3, which is one of, let's see how many algorithms we have here. One of 6 algorithms that will solve the entire cube. So the first algorithm we can actually look at right now. The first one is where you have one unsolved corner here and one unsolved corner here. So you need to switch these two. And the algorithm is F2, U prime, R, U prime, R prime, U, F2, U, R, U, R prime. And that solves the entire cube. The second algorithm is where you have two corners flipped that are next to each other. So you need to flip these two. And you want to hold it to where you have two solved ones on the left side and do this algorithm. R, 2U, R prime, U prime, R, 2U, L prime, U, R prime, U prime, L. And that solves the puzzle. The third case is where you have two solved pairs on the top layer and the bottom layer, but you need to flip two corners on the top right here. So this one will flip with this one, and this one with that one. So it's kind of like the last algorithm, but on both layers. And when you see this case, these two pairs will not be the same color. Like this might be white, but these two might be blue. But just when you do this algorithm, just make sure that they're on the same face. Like line them up. And you want to hold them in the back so you have all the unsolved ones facing you. And you do this algorithm. R2, U prime, F2, U2, R2, U prime, R2, and F2. And that solves it. The fourth case is where you have to switch two corners on the top this way and two corners on the bottom the same way. And so when you look at the puzzle, you should see a ton of these pairs going along in the middle area. So see how they're all the same? And this algorithm is by far the easiest. You do this algorithm. R2, F2, R2. And that solves it. The fifth algorithm that you'll need to know is where you need to switch two on the top going this way, so these two, and on the bottom you need to switch two diagonally. And when you do this algorithm, you want to have the solved pair on the top layer facing you with one of the same color of it right below it. So you want to have this like little L pattern facing you. And this algorithm is also very easy. R, U prime, R, F2, R prime, U, R prime. And that solves it. The last case is basically the last case flipped. So instead of having to switch two on the top layer, you need to switch two on the bottom layer. So see how that's solved? You need to switch these two on the bottom layer and then flip 2 diagonally on the top. So when you do this algorithm, you want to make sure that you have the pair facing you, and then the same color of this one facing you as well. So you have an L for this. So the algorithm is L, D prime, L, F2, L prime, D, L. And that solves it.